Hey everybody, welcome back to the Broken Podcast Shift. But damn it.
That is the best cold opening we have ever had. And we haven't had many. Let's roll with it. Let's roll with it.
Let's keep it.
Outtakes. We'll have an outtake
Outtakes, huh?
at the end of the season. Outtakes at the end of the season. Just cut it and save it for later. Whew. Deep breaths. Hey everybody, welcome to the Broken Shifter Podcast. I'm Hurdon.
I'm Carbon.
I'm Caboose.
I'm Amp.
And we're going to talk about some Daytona. First things first, we wanted to talk about the Xfinity finish. I'm going to let Carbon take that. He really wanted to talk about it.
Well, you can't ignore it. I mean, it's the closest Xfinity race ever in history. Reddick ended up winning over Sadler by 0.000 seconds. It actually rounded out to like 0.0004 seconds, but their counters don't keep track of it. Yeah. So that was like just going back and watching the replay on that is insane. It'd be crazy to have to call that in the,
It was literally
back
an
in the
inch.
day if they didn't have instant replay.
So, yeah, someone went in and actually did the measurements. Sadler lost by about 8 inches. So for Reddick, that is probably the most satisfying 8 inches he has ever received.
Jeez.
That is fucked up. All right. So,
Right out of the
Allegedly.
gate with the jokes.
Allegedly.
for the Daytona 500, we had Alex Bowman putting the 88 on the pole, which I think was his fifth straight, the 88 being on the pole for the fifth straight time, and Danica's last race, which ended the same way as it always does at Daytona. There's no reason to really go into much detail on that. We'll get into that later.
She didn't hit the inside wall. She just got into an accident. There's your difference.
She wasn't the first.
She still had another torn up car at Daytona. She's torn up more cars at Daytona than she's actually races at Daytona. So, anyways, we've got Caboose here to introduce the stage winners.
First stage winner, Caboose. Second stage winner, Rob Lighting. Race winner, Austin Dillon. Yeah, that
So
one
the
really
first
fucked
major
up my
incident
voice.
of the day. Shut up!
You should have given me my own
Goddamn.
segment. You should have seen this shit coming.
So the first major incident of the day was when Stenhouse was kind of blocking Ryan Blaney. Blaney turns him, but Stenhouse saves it, but backs up the outside line, which causes a pretty large wreck. Stenhouse held on to it. He kind of saved it twice. He was blocking, though. This will not be Blaney's first incident of the night, however. The major cars involved in this were Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, William Byron, who, boy, he had a rough day, Jimmy Johnson, and Ty Dillon. Carbon.
Well, first of all, that was an amazing save by Stenhouse. There was a lot of amazing saves at 500. But
Here's to
this
the sixth
is
car of
the
Trevor Bayne.
continuation of exactly what happened in the Clash and the duels. Stenhouse being overly aggressive, which I like, but at the same time I think is
And fast.
a little too aggressive. But it was his first stage point. But then again, it is a stage point that could matter. So, who knows?
Especially for a low-key team.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. It was crazy.
Caboose.
Yeah, I think Stenhouse was being just a little bit too aggressive with his movements, but at Daytona you do have to be aggressive. I don't think he completely screwed the pooch. I think he might have just misjudged how quickly the turn was coming up, and that caused the whole incident. But I think overall his driving was fine, except for the duels. He knew shit was going to happen. He kept doing it.
It was a hell of a save.
Yep.
Amp.
I mean, I think I'm all for rough racing, aggressive racing, but there's also a point that you gotta say, well, it's still fucking early and we gotta long way to go, and let's not tear up a shitload of cars already.
Well, let's be honest about it. We all knew Ryan Blaney's probably going to be a lot to make the chase. Stenhouse is not. So he wanted those points. So I don't blame him for blocking. It just created an incident behind him. And then the Ryan Blaney show started. And I can't remember how many years it's been since somebody led that many laps in the Daytona 500, but it has been a while. And you can see it was a huge bonus for him to move to Penske. Granted, the Wood brothers had Penske equipment. You can see Blaney's talent really coming out. And he just flat out dominated the race. So, having said that, nobody really tried to pass him because they couldn't, because he'd just go right back around him. Chase tries to pass Blaney in stage 2. Blaney blocks him. Keselowski is trying to follow Chase or possibly pass him. And when the block happens, Chase moves back up. Keselowski turns Chase. That turns into another major wreck. So, we've got some really badly torn up cars here in Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Danica Patrick, bye-bye, Casey Kane, Kevin Harvick, and David Reagan. Big names taken out. Carbon.
Real quick with Blaney, it will definitely be interesting to see how he runs the next Daytona and the 2 Talladegas coming up. Him and Stenhouse are probably going to have some interesting racing going on this season at plate tracks. As for the incident, I definitely was not happy to see that, but it didn't really seem like it was anyone's fault per se. Maybe Chase was pushing a little too hard. I think he should have probably let up a little bit, but regardless, he would have probably had Brad right into his rear bumper, and if he would have let off at that point, it still would have been probably catastrophic. So I'm not really sure.
Blaney's block was going to cause that wreck, no matter what. Yeah, it was a racing incident.
Yeah, it happens. It sucks, but it happens.
All right. Yep. Caboose.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just one of those racing things. As I said before, you're trying to win the Daytona 500. And granted, you can't win the 500 on the first lap. You can't win the Daytona on the last lap. So you got to make your moves and try to make them count.
You do win the Daytona 500 on the last lap.
Well, not if you get taken out. Which we will talk about later.
Yeah. All right, Amp, hit me with your opinion on that particular incident.
I mean, it was just honestly a fucking racing thing. I mean, he got a bit of a run, maybe didn't hit him square, but he also got help from behind. I mean, it was just drafting, and it was a racing thing. Wasn't much they could do about it.
Real quick, I just want to add to Caboose's thing. You don't win on the final lap. You win in the last 8 inches.
Yeah, fair enough. True story on that one. So the next topic we're going to move on to is tires going down. We had a plethora of flat tires for numerous reasons. William Byron being the worst of the bunch with, I believe, 3. And ye old 18 of hatred. And I believe he took out McMurray during that. This was, to me, in my opinion, Byron's were a result of damage and cut tires. But Kyle Busch's, that I have no idea. That tire just went down, and Joe Gibbs likes to run their tire pressures really low, so I have no idea. Maybe he ran over some debris.
And even in the duels, tires were randomly going down.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues there. I'm really disappointed. I didn't see any interview with Kyle Busch saying something about Goodyear.
We all are.
There's somebody else whose tire, I think, went down. Because I remember them saying, it's Hendrick and JGR who are having problems. So there had to have been a reason. Maybe it was it Jones? Maybe he came back out or something and then his tire went down. I don't remember, though. There was somebody else, I thought, that had a tire problem.
There was a bunch of tires that went down on lower-end teams, but
yeah,
people were getting laps back like crazy near the end of the race.
Like LaJoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think his tire went down.
Yeah, I think his did too, right? At
the
beginning
first
of
10
the
laps,
race.
surprised you made it that far.
Down
First incident of the year. Reward Corey LaJoy for entertaining us yet again.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, someone posted, I think it was like on Instagram or something like that, a photo of where they were sitting on the 500, 500 and went, where was everyone else during the Daytona 500? And Corey LaJoy went on there and said, in my trailer after lap 9.
Yeah. It's just like every race he ran last year.
Pretty much.
Anyways, so we get back to one Ryan Blaney, who at this point has been just absolutely killing the race. People just lined up behind him. And we're getting on through the race and stuff like that. And Blaney spins Kurt. Third major incident of the day. This one looked to me like a little more of a Blaney not checking up, because he was very aggressive, just like Stenhouse was. I kind of got to pin a little bit of the blame on Blaney on this one, and he took some damage for it. Matt DiBenedetto, or DiBurrito as he is called around here, Kurt Busch, Ricky Stenhouse took a lot of damage. Ryan Newman took a lot of damage. Alex Bowman unfortunately got caught up in that. Brendan Gaughan, who wasn't really a factor most of the race. AJ Allmendinger and Martin Truex Jr., who also was surprisingly not really a factor during that race. Toyota really didn't show up except for Denny Hamlin. Carbon.
Yeah, this one was kind of a shame because our pole sitter, one of the fastest cars on the track, plus last year's Daytona 500 winner, and also the plate track, what did they call him last
The Cup
year?
champion.
The Stenhouse, basically, he one of the best plate track drivers from 2017.
Yeah.
All taken out in the same one, in the same wreck.
And
Plus,
the Cup
we had
champion.
Gaughan up there. I mean, yeah, that sucks. He was doing well,
Yeah.
so it was a pretty bad
He's
wreck
in the middle
for
of the back. Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Caboose?
I do think there might have been a smidge of too much aggression causing too much force come through the draft. It looks like Blaney was just trying to line up Kurt. To me, it didn't look like he was trying to take him out. It just looked like he got a bad push at the wrong time. Arrow push, I should say. At the wrong time, and just didn't have time to check up enough to not take out Kurt. That's just one thing that we've been seeing with this new Arrow package for the plate tracks. I know it's only the first race of the year, but we've seen major pushes, like what we used to back in the 90s. You line up,
Well,
and
you gotta
the
remember-
cars just go.
With the height restrictions gone now, that really messes with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Amp?
I don't know. I think it was part to do with, the race is almost over, time to start getting aggressive. Also being one of those racing incidents, but I also think it does play with something with the new aero packages. Air getting moved where it used to not to, or something of the sort, and we saw it all day long.
I still think part of this comes down to the Stenhouse and Ryan Blaney being so aggressive during the race. And Hamlin was too, but he is he's a veteran, and he seems to find a way to make it work. So,
Better they
anyways,
use
we'll move
Adderall,
on.
apparently.
That's AJ Allmendinger.
And 75% of the
anyways.
field, apparently. Anyway.
So, the end of the race comes down to Eric Almirola leading. Austin Dillon wants to win his first Daytona 500. Eric Almirola wants to win his first Daytona 500. So does Bubba Wallace in his first ride in the 43 car, putting that back in victory lane at Daytona, which would have been awesome. And Dillon goes to pass him through the middle. Almirola blocks. Dillon goes up. Almirola blocks. Gets turned and ends his race. Dillon goes on to win the race. This is a product of Almirola not being out front at restrictor plate races on a regular basis. If you watch Dale Jr., he knows how to control both lanes, especially at the end of the race. Almirola didn't know. When the guy went low, he should have pulled down just enough to where Dillon couldn't get through to keep him in line. Then he should have pulled down after he killed Dillon's momentum, and then, worked from there. but he gave Dillon too much room on the outside where there was an open lane. Dillon chose to take it, and it wound up spinning him, and it ended his race. I'm not a Dillon fan. I like Almirola. I like Bubba Wallace, but it was a controversial ending to a lot of people. To me, it was a racing deal. Carbon.
Yeah, at first I was a little torn on it. I was thinking, okay, the way the camera angle looked from the bumper made it look like Dillon spun him, like actually like pit maneuvered him into the wall. And that was
for
like,
the record, that was the angle we were looking at during the race on live TV.
That was when I was like, okay, that was ridiculous, but I want to see a different angle first. I want to see what happened. And then they showed the other angle, and no, that's not even remotely close, so the camera must have been off to the left side of the car. It looked like it was, just like you said, Amarillo not blocking the way he should have. Dillon hit him, moved him out of the way, maybe a little more aggressively than he probably should have, but it's Daytona 500. You're going for a really big win here. I'm just glad to see Hamlin did not win. And also, the battle at the end from Hamlin and Wallace was amazing. Wallace decided to take it into his own hands and push Hamlin down the track.
They did wreck it.
And then Hamlin ended up pushing him back up the track into the wall, but Wallace still managed to edge it back out.
Still both got good finishes.
I want to diecast.
Torn up race cars. Caboose.
And I don't feel like Almirola did a bad job of controlling the lanes. It's just that Austin Dillon's lane with the assistant of Bubba was just too much to handle. And when you got a car coming up on you 5 to 10 miles an hour faster, you can't really prepare enough for that. It's one thing if your blocker tells you the outside lane has momentum. You don't know just how much momentum until it's pretty much too late. So I feel like Eric Almirola was doing a good job of controlling the lanes, but just that outside lane just got too much momentum for, I would say, most drivers to handle.
We'll say he learned a very valuable lesson about leading at a plate track.
You don't lead at a plate track unless you're passing on the last lap.
I don't know. Dale Jr. was pretty damn good at it, and maybe Almirola should call him up. And Blaney's pretty good at it apparently too in that 12 car. Amp, what'd you think about the final incident?
Personally, I think it was a racing incident, just like a lot of people do. I think he got a run. The outside lane had the advantage. He moved. He didn't have him square, yes, but you also have to remember, new car design has just a little bit of a tip to it, so they're not used to it either. So it seemed like all night, whenever a Chevrolet would be pushing a Ford and there would be a problem, they'd be off center where they used to be able to still push them and not have a problem, and now there's a problem with it and hooking them to the right. I think it was.
And this was never a problem in the 90s. Because they didn't push back then. They kept that 1 inch gap.
Oh, when they pushed you all the way down the backstretch.
Yeah. Well, those cars were a little more boxy, weren't they?
Yeah.
But no, I 100% think it's a racing incident. Almirola even said that he would have probably have done the same thing if it came down to it. It was the 500 for Pete's sakes. I think
every driver on the track would have done it.
I think they would have. The wreck coming to the end though between Bubba and Denny, I'm not too sure about that. It looks like one tried moving down while the other moved up, made contact, and then just looked like Denny said the hell with it and just went full lock right.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He does drive for Joe Gibbs Racing.
And then there was a pretty interesting incident before he went. Bubba got into the media center.
Mm-hmm. Friggin' Hamlin calling Bubba a freaking punk and censoring.
Oh no! He called him a cunt.
Oh yeah, that too.
Oh.
Hamlin stole my line. I'm the one that calls people cunts.
No, I beg to differ. My fiance does that more than anybody because she's from fucking England, and it's perfectly acceptable to call people cunt over there instead of asshole. I'm not saying that shit in public to somebody that I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to race number 2, Atlanta. All right. Carbon, give me your pick and your dark horse.
Real quick, we are going to do the system like we did last year, where we pick one regular driver, one who was probably won within the last year. For now, we'll use 2017 as like the way. And once we get partway through the season, we'll switch it over to who's won this year kind of thing. And your dark horse is not one. I'm gonna take the field.
Not
No.
one hasn't performed. All right, Mike Joy.
You could have done that at Daytona.
No, I'm gonna take Kevin Harvick and Jamie Mack.
Fair.
Good picks. Not bad.
Caboose, hit me with it.
I'm gonna pick Harvick and let's go with the young gun Byron.
I like that.
Hope his tire doesn't go down.
Amp.
I'm gonna also. Oh, no, you know what? I'll go a little bit different. I'll go with Larson for my pick, and then my dark horse. I'm gonna change it up and say Bubba Wallace.
I was thinking about picking
All right.
Larson, but I went,
All right. Well, I'm gonna go completely off kilter compared to everyone else. I am going to pick Ryan Blaney to win it, and Chris Buescher as my dark horse.
I think you picked him last year a lot.
P.S.
Came close.
I know. He got me a lot of fantasy points too, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he got a top 5 in the 500, so why not? All right, everybody. Any closing comments?
yes, Fox, chill with the fucking commercials.
Seriously though.
Fucking seriously.
Oh my
And
God,
we
that was
had
bad.
legitimately 10 to 15 seconds of racing before they cut back to commercials. It's like,
Not even
Fuck.
that. It was like 2 or 3 laps, and then they were like, "Okay, commercial." I said it at
Quick-
one
it
point.
was
I
a
said,
quick
"Holy
check-in
shit!" There's
and
been a
then-
lot
At
of
the end of the
commercials.
fucking race.
The commercial had just ended. It was like I don't know. It was like 5:24, 6:24, something like that. And literally 2 minutes later, another commercial. And then they did it again, like not
Ridiculous.
even a few minutes later. It was like, oh my God. this
With
is
no
ridiculous.
side by side.
no
Well, there was one
side-by-side. We had
Toyota
the side by
side-by-side.
side for the first
Okay.
beginning. And then
Yeah, the
towards
very
end.
beginning they had side by side.
That's
Why?
it.
Why give it up? Yeah,
In
that
stage
was dumb.
3 or
Okay.
whatever, they had the side by side with the Toyota, but they didn't have any commentary or anything like that. It was just the cars running around, and it was only showing Hamlin's car. That was it.
Yeah, that.
Well,
that
they didn't want to
was
show
not
someone
a-
in last place.
Oh no, they did
Not a
show
great
Bush a
broadcast.
little bit, but his car was pretty dinged up so, at the time.
All right. Well, we'll be back after Atlanta, and hopefully Kyle Busch goes to the garage early again. I didn't say that. Anyways, this has been the Broken Shifter podcast, and as always, I am your host, Hurdon.
I'm Carbon.
I'm Caboose.
I'm Amp and fuck Denny Hamlin.
Woo! That's
Agreed.
podcast.